Imagine a world where rock music was a weapon, a symbol of rebellion against oppression. That's the story coming out of the Baltic states, and the Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival, PUF, is shining a spotlight on it. 2 electrifying music documentaries are set to premiere, telling the untold stories of Baltic bands BIX and Velikije Luki, revealing their struggles and triumphs under the watchful eye of the Soviet regime. The 29th edition of PUF kicked off with a musical flourish, thanks to Catalan artist Maria Arnal. But the real headbanging begins with these 2 Baltic music documentaries, programmed by Tina Locke and running until November 23rd. In a world saturated with music documentaries, these films promise to strike a chord, especially within the DocBout PUF Baltic competition, and potentially hit all the right notes with industry professionals. First up, we have Indrek Spungin's Happiness is Living in Our Land, which focuses on the Estonian punk band Velikije Luki. Then there's Emilis Vėlyvis BIX Almost Nirvana, a deep dive into the Lithuanian band BIX. Both films chronicle the band's origins in the underground music scene and their subsequent rise to popularity. But here's where it gets controversial. These films don't shy away from showcasing how the Soviet Union actively suppressed musical expression and the impact it had on these groups. Punk rock, in particular, seemed to deeply unsettle the Soviet authorities. The KGB even had a special department dedicated to studying its effect on the moral fiber of socialist youth, reveals Spungin. It's a chilling reminder of the power of music to challenge the status quo. BIX Almost Nirvana offers a rare glimpse behind the Iron Curtain, premiering at Tallinn on Sunday. The film highlights a pivotal moment for BIX, their performance in Berlin after the fall of the Berlin Wall, sharing the stage with none other than Nirvana. Talk about a cultural collision. Director Emilis Vėlyvis, known for his action comedies, took a different turn with this project, reuniting the Lithuanian cult rock band BIX with frontman Saulius Urbonavičius Samas. After 33 years for his documentary debut, Vėlyvis orchestrated an epic road trip, complete with a vintage bus, instruments, and the band's iconic giant inflatable piglet. The film also incorporates archival footage from the 1990s, adding another layer of authenticity. In an interview, Vėlyvis explained his motivation for telling BIX's story. This is hands down the craziest post-punk band story from the entire post-Soviet world. What these guys pulled off in Europe and America in the early 90s. No other Eastern European band or musician has come close to that. Not even to this day. Maybe not even all of them put together. Playing with Nirvana, recording albums, having those opportunities, and still staying true to who they are as artists, that's just insanely unique. He emphasized the band's unwavering commitment to their creative vision, even in the face of immense opportunities. Vėlyvis also spoke about the political angle of the film, noting that BIX music was inextricably linked to the resistance movements in Lithuania and across the Soviet Union. BIX were basically living and breathing that whole 90s era. Their music captured and inspired all those feelings of resistance that were bubbling up in Lithuania and pretty much everywhere across the Soviet Union back then. You really can't separate BIX from all the emotions and rebellious energy of that time. When asked about the popularity of music documentaries, Vėlyvis acknowledged the trend, but emphasized his unique approach. So this is actually my first film in this genre as a director. It's definitely my most honest and most musical piece of work. Everything I've done before has been thrillers, detective stories, crime stuff, that kind of thing. The film took 3 years to complete, and Vėlyvis noted that the band members were enthusiastic about the project from the start, fulfilling a long-held dream of having their story told on film. And this is the part most people miss. The inflatable pig, according to Vėlyvis, is more than just a stage prop. It's a symbol of the band's journey. The pig has been with them through everything, their whole journey. For them, it's love, it's a friend, it's disappointment, it's even giving up on dreams. BIX without the pig? That's like Hollywood without Tarantino. Vėlyvis also touched on the transformation of the Lithuanian music scene since the fall of the Soviet Union, highlighting the emergence of new trends, genres, and generations of artists. He acknowledged the challenges faced by musicians today, but deferred to those within the music industry for a more comprehensive perspective. The title Almost Nirvana came naturally during filming, reflecting the genuine connection between the two bands. As for his future plans, Vėlyvis is looking forward to a well-deserved break before embarking on his next feature film. Meanwhile, Indrek Spungin's Happiness is Living in Our Land is poised to premiere at Tallinn, drawing fans eager to celebrate their hometown heroes, Velikije Luki. The film's synopsis paints a stark picture of life in the Soviet Union during the 1980s. In the Soviet Union, the 1980s are awaited with promises from the great leaders of a coming communist paradise. The reality, however, is far from it. Poverty, shortages, ideological control, and relentless missile production to cope with the ever-looming threat of nuclear war. In the grim depths of stagnation, in late October 1982, a group of Soviet youths gather in Tallinn and form the punk band Velikije Luki. The band faces arrests, beatings, forced psychiatric treatments, and performance bans, yet they carry on, driven by alcohol-soaked courage and determination. Through a series of lucky coincidences, their small acts of rebellion help set in motion events that eventually contribute to the Soviet Union's downfall. Spungin explained his motivation for telling Velikije Luki's story. I actually didn't know much about Velikije Luki, even though I'd been immersed in the punk scene since I was 12. But when Ivo Ukivi, Monk, the frontman of Velikije Luki, started sharing those wild anecdotal stories from the 1980s, it struck me that the rest of the world should hear and see them too. What really drove me was the idea that their story could be told against the backdrop of the absurdity and collapse of the Soviet Empire, in a way that would make it much more than just another rock biography. He emphasized that while numerous factors contributed to the Soviet Union's demise, the influence of punk rock should not be underestimated. In truth, there were many factors behind the fall of the Soviet Union, but not insignificant was also the punk element, that so-called rotten Western influence, which reached Estonia via Finnish television, and from there spread across the Soviet Union. In fact, the KGB even had a special department dedicated to studying its effect on the moral fiber of socialist youth. Spungin highlighted the band's subversive use of Soviet propaganda. Even if you couldn't sing about things as you truly felt, without being punished by the authorities, you could sing the official propaganda from Soviet newspapers word for word, with such hysterical precision that the very manner of performance inverted the message itself. This highlights the band's clever and courageous use of satire as a form of resistance. Punk, according to Spungin, provided young people with the courage to question Soviet ideology and morality, offering a small space for freedom within a totalitarian regime. The film took 4 years to create, and Spungin described the challenges of finding visual material from that era. He ultimately decided to recreate some scenes using young actors and 8mm film, adding a unique and authentic touch to the documentary. Spungin also noted that the band members were incredibly supportive of the project from the beginning, sharing their stories and insights with complete openness. Addressing the hardships faced by bands during the Soviet era, Spungin expressed optimism about the current state of music in Estonia, noting that local artists are now on par with their Western counterparts in terms of creativity and expression. He illustrated this point with the example of stage diving, highlighting the cultural time lag that once existed between the Soviet Union and the West. The first such jump in the world took place at a Rolling Stones concert in 1964. The first one in the Soviet Union happened 20 years later, at a Velikije Luki concert in 1984. These two jumps perfectly capture the cultural time gap that once separated the two sides of the Iron Curtain. Spungin's Happiness is Living in Our Land is his second feature-length documentary. He is currently developing a new documentary about the relationship between Juan Linz and Alexander Keskula, exploring their roles in pivotal events of the early 20th century. He is also working on a short thriller set in 1935 Tartu, exploring the themes of love, betrayal, and the nature of truth. These two documentaries offer a powerful and poignant glimpse into a turbulent period of history, showcasing the resilience and creativity of Baltic musicians who dared to challenge the status quo. It begs the question, how does music shape culture and act as a vehicle for resistance, even today? What responsibility do artists have to speak truth to power? And considering the current global climate, are we on the verge of a new era of protest music?